I do have ideas. I just don't have time to do stuff like that. Fat America trying to use their fat fingers. They're starting to replace baristas with robots. Thank you always for your support. Like, hey, this is Elon Musk. Like, I am so desperate for your approval. Like, can we be friends? I'll give you a free Cybertruck. But it was really all I could do to just get here on time, which I didn't even. I think the majority of people did not buy Teslas to support Elon Musk. Conscious. I don't buy Fruit Loops to support the CEO of Kellogg's. Fruit Loops, honestly, because they're goddamn delicious. In fact, I don't know a single person that is interested in supporting Jeff Bezos. What that says to me is that they're overcharging for Teslas. And I don't remember why I was saying that. I was going to say I'm not as prepared as I normally am, but like, am I ever these days? Honestly, nobody wants to hear me talk more.
Hard Rock Lunchbox.
Yes, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Hard Rock Lunchbox. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, on Strangerhood TV on YouTube, welcome to the top 20. Looks like a glorious April 17th, 2025 out there. It is very nice to feel the sun once again. It has been one hell of a spring, if you can call it that. So I, for one, am grateful for the nicer looking weather, at least. I still am in a thermal because I am still cold. That may not have anything to do with the weather today, but I am indeed cold, and I don't like it. I do not like it at all. But here we are. I don't feel like starting weather chats with people, so let's just move on to other stuff, and we can kind of get on with our light housekeeping, ladies and gentlemen. So this week there's a brand new top 20 out this morning. So please feel free to watch that, like, subscribe, share, all that other good stuff. And it's called Penguin Tariffs, and I'm just making fun of the Trump tariffs that actually put tariffs on that island in the South Indian Ocean that's only inhabited by penguins, because obviously this administration clearly knows what it's doing. So, but I also talked about the ring I found. That's right here on my thumb. You can see that. I'm still wearing it. I'm still getting used to it. I will say I really enjoy just like playing with it, like no phrasing, but like I like twirl it around all my other fingers because it's big enough to fit on all my other fingers if it can fit on my thumb, which is not something that I've actually had over the past maybe half to more than half of a decade, because I was just so damn heavy. My fingers were so fat I couldn't even put rings on or take rings off or anything like that. But since I've dropped down to a human being's weight, I've been able to do that. But it's actually been fun. Like, I actually just sit there and I'll play with this sometimes, and I'll just like rotate it through my fingers and stuff like that. You know, it's like not quite a magic trick, but you know, when you're looking for anything to occupy your space besides what's going on in your head, then you will just kind of be entertained by just about anything, I suppose. So I do talk about that. I talk about the Elon Musk versus Peter Navarro thing, which is still funny to me. But most importantly in that episode, and I think this is worth mentioning again if you missed it last week, I do break down how tariffs, not tariffs indirectly, but how recreating American manufacturing for everyday items will directly affect costs and prices and stuff like that. And I thought it was important enough that not only is it in the top 20, of course, but I actually put out a slice of the top 20. I think it comes out tomorrow. It's a slice of the top 20 that is just that segment, because I wanted it available for people to not only like see it and hear it and understand it if they wanted to, but to make it shareable, because we all run into people that like either don't understand what tariffs in American manufacturing are actually going to mean, but then there's a lot of people that just simply refuse to believe it. And I was actually a little surprised, because I mentioned this at rehearsal last week that I had done this, and I just broke down very simply, the same way I did on the show, like the 4 major categories of how to make a Nike shoe, and I was talking about labor specifically, and my drummer just simply refused to acknowledge that they were going to be more expensive if they were made here. He kept saying, like, no, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and I just said there is no way for that to happen. right? Like, because there's not. Like, if it takes 10 hours, it takes 10 hours. And honestly, like, I was talking to Jimmy yesterday, and he was telling me about this meme that's like these memes that are going around in China that are just talking about kind of showing like fat America trying to use their fat fingers to make these like tiny little electronics. And it's like, I don't think it's racist, or it might be racial, but like, you know, that economy, like the Asian economy that is currently building electronics, are uniquely skilled for that because they're already doing it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying because they're Asian they can do this better. I'm saying because they've been doing it, they can do it better. And, you know, obviously not everybody in America is fat, but there is an obesity epidemic here, unlike most other countries in the world. So I think it's just kind of funny. Think about, like I was just talking about, I couldn't even get a ring off my finger, and me trying to make an iPhone. I think it would be somewhat laughable and might make a good Revel 9 video if I had the motivation to do such things. But I don't. So yeah, so I was talking to him about, and he was just insisting that like that wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to be the case. And there's really no way around it, right? If you're going to pay people to do stuff, then that's what it's going to cost here. Now, the one caveat that I did think about after that conversation was that there is one way to kind of keep those labor costs down and not have to do, you know, so much. And by the way, I didn't even talk about stuff like insurance. Like, if you're paying people in America on the books, right, like they have to pay into their Social Security, but employers have to match their Social Security. A lot of places have to provide some sort of health insurance for the employee. They don't always, but like there are usually like compensatory benefits and stuff to being an employee in America, and that's because of a lot of the you know, labor laws that we have. Now, even though a lot of the labor board is being gutted by Elon Musk and Doge, and we've talked about why that is. Has nothing to do with efficiency, because remember, if you even check the Doge calculator currently, you could save more money than Doge has saved by just eliminating SpaceX contracts, which I do find kind of funny and hypocritical, and nobody wants to hear that. But so the one way that I did think that they could eliminate those costs, and those costs surges in making stuff in America, is of course through robotic engineering and robotic employees that are making these shoes instead of humans, which yes, would bring manufacturing back to America, but no, would not bring any jobs back to America, because if you're replacing the laborers with robots, then there's not really jobs there. I mean, I suppose people like me in software and tech will have jobs because of that, but honestly, I think we would have those jobs anyway, because all companies need software and tech. Like, even if it's just to manage the workforce that's doing it, like payroll, like, you know, time clocks and labor hours and projections and all that other stuff. Like, that's kind of one of the things that I do. So I'm aware of those kinds of things. And so my industry would probably be busy regardless. So we'll either be creating that software or we'll be creating the software to run the robots. It doesn't affect me, I don't think, at all. But it really, you know, is going to affect that labor force, right? Because if you automate that stuff, then, you know, you're kind of out those jobs. And even John Oliver was talking about it when he was doing his episode on tipping, which is very good, by the way. If you don't watch Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, you're really missing out. It's not only topical, because he talks about a couple of things, but he always has one main focus, which I find very interesting to do. And I feel like you should absolutely, you know, it's a way to learn, right? So, but he was talking about how they're starting to replace baristas with robots. So, yeah, maybe being a barista is not everybody's dream job, but like, I know plenty of people that have been or are baristas, and they work in that industry, and they might be outsourced pretty soon by a glorified Nespresso machine, which I just, you know, it isn't going to help American jobs or any of that stuff. So my point is that I sliced that video. I do think it comes out tomorrow on Strangerhood TV. So I would encourage you, if you're running into anybody that either doesn't understand what this kind of stuff means and how it's going to directly affect the American consumer, or worse, people that are just in complete denial of it, I would argue that it's worth sharing to them, because I think it's a pretty decent example, and as my sort of PSA and customer service to my listening audience, I think it's a valuable tool. So just please keep that in mind. Like I said, I think it comes out tomorrow. If I was at all in a good headspace today, I would have done that work ahead of time, and I could let you know definitively, but it was really all I could do to just get here on time, which I didn't even. So In other news, Rebel 9 has a brand new song coming out. It is our first original release since we put out Inside sometime last year. The song is called End Us All. I will probably spend some of the top 20 talking about that particular song and some of the problems I've been having trying to move that thing forward and some of the other hiccups that we've had over the past couple of months. We do have a show next Saturday night at Whiskey Rocks. It's going to be Minimum Champion opening with an acoustic set. Pine Street is then on second for some reason, and then us, and then Oswald's. That was not what I was expecting it to be, but that is what it's going to be. So everybody that I told we'd be on around 9 o'clock, I'm just a liar, so that's sort of too bad. It looks like we're going to be on later than that, but it won't be too late. I've been told that we're looking to get a band on every hour on the hour, so it's still going to be a fairly early night. And for fans of Rebel 9 that stay all night to watch us close shows, hopefully this is a little bit better for you. Thank you always for your support and your patience with us, but that's the deal. So probably in the 10s is when we'll be playing. I will tell you, the set list is all over the place, and maybe I'll talk about that in a second. Bacon is my podcast. This week they've got stuff out about the power of shared happiness and celebrate your friends. I know I keep saying I'm going to try and listen more. I have not been out for a walk in quite some time, and I don't even know why or what that is, but that is usually when I was listening to this stuff. Then from Jukebox Pick to a boner in the vibe, a new phrase is born. I got to check that out. And Discussions and Drinks, doing the least, whiskey, ditching competition, and who's naming Elon's kids. Definitely sounds like it's worth a listen. So please feel free to check that out. I would recommend that, and I'm really going to try and listen myself. In terms of other stuff in the world, there is just one thing I want to talk about. It's not really political; it's more social, and I'll probably. If any of you receive this link from me, like, it's worth watching, right? But I don't know that I'll honestly get to it, but like, it is worth watching because Rachel Maddow, who I still watch on occasion, she's back to MSNBC for the first 100 days of the presidency, and I've always thought she's done an excellent job covering the news. I've talked about why that is, and I've talked about her being a Rhodes Scholar and all that other stuff. She always does an excellent job, but she also has a knack for covering kind of stories that are just weird or funny or not necessarily newsworthy, but she seems to make them interesting, which I appreciate. And this particular story was fantastic because I don't even know that I can do it justice, but I'll just give you the highlights, and maybe I'll be able to post the link and you can watch it on your own. So in places like Seattle, basically in the West Coast, Seattle, but mainly in Silicon Valley in California, like in Menlo Park and in Palo Alto specifically, somebody or somebodies has found a way to hack into the Crosswalk system. Those of you who don't walk may not know this, but on most crosswalk systems, especially in busy areas, and this is a lot for the visually impaired and the elderly, when you press the button to cross the street, it'll announce, like, wait, and then walk, right? Like, it'll tell you that you get those verbal cues. If you haven't seen that, you just take my word for it. So in Palo Alto and Menlo Park and a couple other places, somebody hacked into that system, which would normally be dangerous, except that this is too funny to be dangerous, I think. And then it does actually continue to work like it normally does. But what they do is when you press the button, I think it's in Palo Alto, a AI-generated voice of Elon Musk comes on. And in a couple places, he's just saying, like, hey, this is Elon Musk. Like, I am so desperate for your approval. Like, can we be friends? I'll give you a free Cybertruck. Which is just bananas. And then there's one, I forget where this was, where they hacked it, and you press it, and it's Mark Zuckerberg AI voice saying, like, hey, I just want to thank you for all that we're doing to, like, make the world unsafe for trans people and all the stuff we're doing together to, bring down the democracy in this world. And it's just a little heartwarming because that's the kind of practical joke and stuff that I always say that I would do once I retire and have all this free time, because I do have ideas. I just don't have time to do stuff like that. But my hat's off to the people that did that, because it does sort of send a message, and it does capture a feeling that's being getting wider and wider spread in this country about that kind of stuff. And I think it was summed up the best in Seattle over the weekend. They had at across the street from a Tesla dealership, they had a free badge removal service, which I did not know what that was, but they went on to explain it, which was fantastic. So what they were doing at this location across the street from a Tesla dealership in Seattle is that you could go there, and if you had what they're calling Tesla regret syndrome, TRS, you could go there with your Tesla, and people would help you remove the Tesla logo from your car. Apparently, all you really need to do is hit it with a heat gun to soften up the glue. Then you take some fishing wire or some other, wire that you could probably kill somebody with, and they show you how to shimmy and scrape that off, and then they give you the stuff that's called Goo Gone, which is, if anybody has ever used that, it's what you use to get like label and sticker residue off of something. It helps just dissolve that stuff. And they also had like auto finish pens, like all the different colors, so if you did scratch it, you could just fix it right there and then. And what they also offered, which I thought was really hysterical, is that they had some donated other car emblems, right? Like the one I saw was an Audi, the circles, the 4 circles, kind of could be the Olympics, but isn't. And they would help you attach the Audi logo to your car where the Tesla badge had been, so that you could, and they even say so that you can kind of drive your car if you're not willing to sell it without, the angry glares or whatever. Because while I don't think it's fair to be mad at people for driving Teslas, especially I think the majority of people did not buy Teslas to support Elon Musk. I think if you see somebody driving in a Cybertruck, we might have a different motivation for that. But the Teslas in general, they really were the first really well-made and could really work electric vehicle, an EV. And a lot of people that are conscious of the climate change issue and fossil fuels and all that other, and pollution and all that other stuff, they really did invest their money and more money into getting an EV because I think they thought they were doing something for the planet. Now, the motivation could be to save on gas. I don't know. But the motivation, generally speaking, among Tesla owners that I knew and know wasn't to support Elon Musk, because that's silly. I don't buy Fruit Loops to support the CEO of Kellogg's or whatever company makes it. I buy Fruit Loops, honestly, because they're goddamn delicious. And as I said a couple of weeks ago, sometimes they're on sale at CVS, and I just can't help myself. So, I guess there are reasons you would support a company for the owner of the company. I tend to find that more in, local businesses. It's hard to shop local these days. It really is, because a lot of big box stores, or even the small box stores, the mom and pops, they don't have the infrastructure to handle the inventory. That's why Amazon and Walmart and Target are just great for those reasons. They're not great companies, make no mistake, but they are great because if you need, a 2 amp fuse for, whatever the rating is, there is no Radio Shack anymore. So, you could go to a Grainger if you wanted to. They probably have stuff like that, or an Electronics Depot, but or a Micro Center, but you have to find those to go to them, whereas you can just go on Amazon. And even if Amazon doesn't have it or Walmart doesn't have it, they have enough logistical infrastructure that somebody is selling it on there, right? You can go to eBay too, but those places, that's why 65% of the first search for a product is on Amazon, because they have it. It's not because people want to support Jeff Bezos. In fact, I don't know a single person that is interested in supporting Jeff Bezos. I think after a certain point, people aren't willing to just support somebody that's a billionaire and arguably not doing enough or what they should for the company, for the consumers at large. And like I said, not to harp on Elon Musk, but because he's made so much money at Tesla and he's valued at so much money by Tesla, what that says to me is that they're overcharging for Teslas, right? that kind of makes sense. If a company is making so much money, that means their profit margin must be that high so that they can have money. And of course, Tesla's a publicly traded company. I don't think Tesla actually offers up dividends. I think that was the company I looked into. So they're not actually paying people back, but their valuation is important. So if you invest $100 in Tesla, in 7 years, you expect it to be worth $700, etc. Although Tesla, before this year, was doing much better than that, so the value was much higher. But yeah, I don't think people go out of their way to support billionaires, CEOs. I think what you're finding now on both sides is you're finding people that will not buy a Tesla because of Elon Musk, and I think you're finding people that will buy a Tesla because of Elon Musk. But I think that Tesla is a very unique thing in that equation. And I don't remember why I was saying that, but anyway, I just thought it was interesting, and I thought it was a worthwhile story. So if any of you get a link from me like later talking about that, then that's pretty much what I'm talking about. Yeah, I've had kind of a rough morning, so I'm not as prepared as I was going to say I'm not as prepared as I normally am, but like, honestly, am I ever these days? Like, it just feels like I'm not. I did actually want to talk more about End Us All, but we're at, 12:23 here, so I think I've talked just enough, and honestly, nobody wants to hear me talk more. So why don't we start getting on with the music? We'll start, as we always do here, with some local music for the first hour of the show, or whatever's left of it, and we'll just entertain you with some of the talent that maybe, just maybe, you can go out and see locally, because, as I said, supporting locals is super important. A lot of the music here on Long Island and in our area is just as good as anything, if not better, than you'll find in national media and mainstream music. But it's ours, and I think we should support it because it's just as good. It's ours. It's awesome. And that's what we do here, right? Part of our community, trying to build that. Yeah, I know. I do want to thank everybody that's reached out to me over the past couple of weeks and mentioned a kind word about this show and like what it affords them, like mentally and spiritually, and just getting up off the floor when they can't quite do it on their own. Like, I take that stuff very personally, and I do think that's important. I know how much being able to do this kind of stuff helps me, and being part of a community helps me to do the everyday. So if that affords anything to anybody else out there, like, I am entirely grateful, but I am also completely at your service, because if nothing else, what I've realized about myself over the past 10 years, that if I'm not being of service to somebody, no matter what detriment it is to myself, then I just don't feel like I'm pulling my weight or even worth being here. So, like, I'm happy to do it. I am honored that it does it, and just, thank you to everybody out there. So let's get started. Playing Dead, one of my favorite new finds of the local arena around here over the past year or two, and I just dig all their stuff. So here's Emily Rugburn kicking off the box.